My name is Abhishek, and I am a 2015 batch IPS officer, and I basically belong to Bihar. I was born on UP Cadre, and I am currently posted in my fifth or sixth district right now. I'm SP Shamli right now. So I'll be explaining the questions related to polity and international relations. I think we shall start with question number 11.
Welcome. We are honored to have you with us, IPS Abhishek Jha. Let's start. So the first question is question number 11. In a sense, what does due process of law mean? Option A, the principle of natural justice. Option B, the procedure established by law. Option C, fair application of law. Option D, equality before law.
Article 21 of the Constitution of India, that is right to life. It never mentioned exactly, it only talks about the procedure established by law, and that nobody shall be punished in violation of it. Now, due process is not a concept explicitly mentioned in the Indian Constitution. It was interpreted by the Supreme Court in a famous case, Menka Gandhi versus Union of India in 1977, when her passport was impounded in public interest, and the government of India, when requested, it declined to provide any reasons, and claimed that it was done in the interest of the general public. So that was a time when the Supreme Court overruled its earlier judgment, and it sort of tried to combine Article 14, 19, and 21. And it said that, the articles cannot be compartmentalized separately. And it created sort of what is known as the golden triangle or golden trinity. And it held that if there is a law which is depriving a person of his or her personal liberty, then a procedure cannot be arbitrary. It has to be reasonable. So the closest answer which seems, it shall be C, that the law is fairly applied. And I believe the answer is C. Question number 11, the answer is C.
Okay, question number 12. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. In India, prisons are managed by state governments with their own rules and regulations for the day-to-day administration of prisons. Statement 2. In India, prisons are governed by the Prisons Act 1894, which expressly kept the subject of prisons in the control of provincial governments. So which of the following one of them is correct in respect of the above statements? So we have option A, where both statements 1 and 2 are correct, but statement 2 is the correct explanation for statement 1. Option B, both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, and statement 2 is not the correct explanation for statement 1. Option C, statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect. And option D, statement 1 is incorrect, but statement 2 is correct.
Okay, this is a typical, question which comes in civil services examination. The options are very typical. Here, statement 1 is true and statement 2 is false. So the answer is C. To explain this, Prisons Act was enacted in 1894, and it is the current law which is governing the management and administration of prisons. I believe the question came into picture because the central government is bringing new prison reforms which have been in news recently. Now, the constitutional changes which brought prisons under state management, they came in Government of India Act 1935. So that is the reason the statement 2, which says that that it was done by Prisons Act 1894, is false. Now, this also seems plausible because the reforms which gave more autonomy to the states, they started coming after 1909. And before that, there was hardly any autonomy which was given to the states. So even if for a candidate who does not know that this reform came through Government of India Act 1935, it seems reasonable to guess that it would be very difficult, for a British government to give to let the states handle the autonomy of prisoners who we are putting behind the bars because of the Indian national movement which was going on at that time. So factually and even through an educated guess, statement 2 turns out to be false, and statement 1 is correct. The prisons are managed by the states, so the correct answer is C.
Okay, question number 13. Which one of the following statements best reflects the chief purpose of the constitution of a country? Option A, it determines the objective for the making of necessary laws. Option B, it enables the creation of political offices and a government. Option C, it defines and limits the powers of a government. And option D, it secures social justice, social equality, and social security.
With respect to question 13, it's a bit of tricky question, I believe, and all of these are primary objectives of the Constitution, and it all boils down to separating which one could be the most important. So, when it comes to the first statement or the objective of making necessary laws, now laws are necessary for administration and governance, but laws can be fair and they can be unfair. Now, similarly, the creation of political offices in government, many countries have, whether it is a democracy, whether it is an autocracy, or whether it is a monarchy, everywhere there are systems for political offices and governance. Similarly, the idea of social justice, social equality, and social security, they have to be endorsed by the government, at least in theory. So I believe it was a close. The options C and D are very close, but I think answer C might be correct because the limits and powers of government are defined by the Constitution, and they actually in turn help in ensuring social justice, social equality, and social security. So I will opt for answer C.
Question number 14. In India, which one of the following constitutional amendments was widely believed to be enacted to overcome the judicial interpretations of the fundamental rights? Option A, First Amendment. Option B, 42nd Amendment. Option C, 44th Amendment. Option D, 86th Amendment.
Okay, now if I'm not wrong, the 86th Amendment was right to education. It came in 2002. So that definitely can be ruled out. The First Amendment also was to enlarge the powers of the government to amend the Constitution. But I believe the answer is B, 42nd Amendment, for the simple reason that it completely turned the basic structure, as it was so called by the Supreme Court, or the inherent principle underlying the Constitution. The balance between the fundamental rights and directive principles were completely overturned here. The 42nd Amendment, it enlarged the scope of Article 31C, and it said that any law which implements any of the directive principles of state policy, they cannot be questioned in the Supreme Court on the grounds of contravention of Article 14 or 19. Prior to this, it was about implementation of directives given in 39B and 39C. Now, this amendment gave complete supremacy to directive principles over the fundamental rights. And not only that, it also took away the purview of questioning any such law on such ground. It was eventually struck down in the Minerva Mills case in 1978 by the Supreme Court, saying that the harmony between the directive principles and fundamental rights is a basic structure and it cannot be struck down. So I believe that the answer is 42nd Amendment, option B.
Okay, question number 15. Consider the following organizations or bodies in India. First, the National Commission for Backward Classes. Second, the National Human Rights Commission. Third, the National Law Commission. Fourth, the National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission. Now, how many of the above are constitutional bodies? Option A, only one. Option B, only two. Option C, only three. Option D, all four.
This is more or less a factual question, but it can be there can be relatively educated guess in this question too. The National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission, if anybody is watching TV, आप regularly जागो ग्राहक जागो का ad देखते हैं. So it was constituted under Consumer Protection Act. It is a statutory quasi-judicial body. It is not a constitutional body. The National Law Commission, it is set up at certain intervals, I would say. I mean, to review the legal framework of the country. Even currently, the government is considering, amendments to the Indian Penal Code and the Criminal Procedure Code, which have been framed in the 1860s by the Britishers. It is again constituted by Ministry of Law and Justice with a definite term of reference. It is neither constitutional nor statutory. The National Human Rights Commission, It is a statutory body. It is constituted under the Protection of Human Rights Act. It is a permanent body, but it is not constitutional. The National Commission for Backward Classes, it was created by the 102nd Amendment, Article 338B of the Constitution. It is the only constitutional body among the given options. So the answer is A, only one.
Question number 16. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. If the election of the President of India is declared void by the Supreme Court of India, all acts done by him or her in the performance of duties of his or her office of President before the date of decision become invalid. Statement 2. Election for the post of the President of India can be postponed on the ground that some legislative assemblies have been dissolved and elections are yet to take place. Statement 3. When a bill is presented to the President of India, the Constitution prescribes time limits within which he or she has to declare his or her assent. Now, how many of the above statements are correct? Option A, only one. Option B, only two. Option C, all three. Option D, none.
Okay. So the first statement, Article 71, if you have read the the articles related to the president and his office in the Constitution, it clearly mentions that the acts done in exercise and performance of the power and duties of the president on or before the date of decision of the Supreme Court shall not be invalidated by the reason of that declaration. So it clearly says that the decisions will not be invalidated just because the election has been declared void by the Supreme Court. So the first statement is incorrect. Moving on to statement 2. Again, the article related to President, Article 71, the fourth subsection clearly mentions that the election of person as a president or vice president shall not be questioned on the ground of existence of any vacancy for whatever reason among the members of the Electoral College. Now, the members of the Legislative Assembly are a member of the Electoral College of the President, but the vacancy will not be a reason for questioning the election of the President. So, statement 2 stands incorrect. Now, the last one, this is a type of veto available with the President. There is no time frame mentioned, and it's sort of a pocket veto with the President. Whenever he feels that maybe the government is unstable, or he feels like he wants to lay the bill on the table, he has all the discretion to lay it on the table. So there is no specific time frame mentioned within which the President is bound to give his assent. So statement 3 also is incorrect. So overall, all the statements are false, and the answer is none of the statements. So option D.
Question 19. With reference to scheduled areas in India, consider the following statements. Statement 1. Within a state, the notification of an area as scheduled area takes place through an order of the President. Statement 2. The largest administrative unit forming the scheduled area is the district, and the lowest is the cluster of villages in the block. Statement 3. The chief ministers of the concerned states are required to submit annual reports to the Union Home Ministry on the administration of scheduled areas in the states. How many of the above statements are correct? Option A, only one. Option B, only two. Option C, all three. Option D, none.
The first statement, within a state, the notification of an area as scheduled area takes place through the order of the President. This is clearly mentioned in the 5th schedule. So this statement is correct. The second statement is a bit dicey. The largest administrative unit is a district, and the lowest is the cluster of villages in the block. Now it says that a functional administrative unit shall be a district, a block, or taluk. So the statement 2 plausibly seems correct, but I believe that it can be further verified. I'm 50-50 with the statement, but it can be reasonably assumed that the statement might be correct. The third statement, the report is submitted to the President. Again, party of the 5th schedule clearly states that the governor of each state having scheduled areas shall annually or whenever required by the President shall submit a report to the President regarding the administration of the scheduled areas. So the report is not submitted to the Union Home Ministry. So statement 3 is outrightly wrong. So the answer is B.
Question number 20. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. The Supreme Court of India has held in some judgments that the reservation policies made under Article 16(4) of the Constitution of India would be limited by Article 335 for maintenance of efficiency of administration. Statement 2. Article 335 of the Constitution of India defines the term efficiency of administration. Which of the following is correct in respect of the above statements? Option A, both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, and statement 2 is the correct explanation for statement 1. Option B, both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, and statement 2 is not the correct explanation for statement 1. Option C, statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect. Option D, statement 1 is incorrect, but statement 2 is correct.
Okay. So the first statement basically relates to the famous Indira Sahni versus Union of India, or the Mandal Commission case, in which the Supreme Court limited the reservation to 50%. The maximum reservation that can be given is 50%. In fact, it has been a bone of contention with many states. For example, recently Tamil Nadu has contested, and eventually it was overruled that more than 50% reservation cannot be given. Similarly, there have been recent approvals in Maharashtra. So the first statement is correct. The Supreme Court has limited it to 50% in the famous Mandal Commission case. The statement 2, Article 335 does mention the term efficiency of administration, but it does not define the term. It is an ambiguous term. It has been left to the wisdom of the lawmakers. So statement 2 is incorrect, and the correct answer shall be C.
Question number 51. With reference to home guards, consider the following statements. Statement 1. Home guards are raised under the Home Guards Act and rules of the central government. Statement 2. The role of the home guards is to serve as an auxiliary force to the police in maintenance of internal security. Statement 3. To prevent infiltration on the international border coastal areas, the border wing home guards battalions have been raised in some states. How many of the above statements are correct? Option A, only 1. Option B, only 2. Option C, all 3. Option D, none.
Okay, so Home Guard is India's first volunteer force, formed in December 1946 to assist the police. And I believe the first statement is incorrect because the Home Guard Act and rules of the central government do not apply to them. The second statement is definitely correct. They are an auxiliary force to police in the maintenance of internal security. And even the third statement is correct, that they are used to prevent infiltration. And in some states, the border wing home guard battalions have been raised. So statement 2 and 3 are correct. And the answer is B.
Question 52. With reference to India, consider the following pairs. So column A is action, column B is the act under which it is covered. First, unauthorized wearing of police or military uniforms. The Official Secrets Act 1923. Second, knowingly misleading or otherwise interfering with a police officer or military officer when engaged in their duties. The Indian Evidence Act 1872. Third, celebratory gunfire which can endanger the personal safety of others. The Arms Amendment Act 2019. How many of the pairs are correctly matched? Option A, only 1. Option B, only 2. Option C, all 3. Option D, none.
Okay, so the first one is correctly matched. It is mentioned in Section 6 of Official Secrets Act. The option number 2 is incorrectly matched. It also corresponds to Official Secrets Act. It does not correspond to Indian Evidence Act. The third one is correctly matched. It responds to Section 25 of the Act, and has been quite in news recently because of the civilian deaths because of the celebratory gunfire in marriages and other similar functions. So only option 1 and 3 are correctly matched, and the answer is B, 2 options.
Question 64. Consider the following statements in respect of the national flag of India according to the Flag Code of India 2002. Statement 1. One of the standard sizes of the national flag of India is 600 mm by 400 mm. Statement 2. The ratio of the length to the height or width of the flag shall be 3:2. Which one of the following is correct in respect of the above statements? Option A, both statement 1 and 2 are correct, and statement 2 is the correct explanation for statement 1. Option B, both statement 1 and 2 are correct, and statement 2 is not the correct explanation for statement 1. Option C, statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect. Option D, statement 1 is incorrect, but statement 2 is correct.
Okay, so with respect to question number 64, the flag code mentions certain standard sizes. There are 4 or 5. It's a bit factual question, but 600 by 400 mm is definitely not one of the standard sizes which has been mentioned there. However, the ratio of length to height is definitely 3:2. So statement 2 is correct. Statement 1 is incorrect. The correct answer is D.
Question 65. Consider the following statements in respect of the Constitution Day. Statement 1. The Constitution Day is celebrated on 26th November every year to promote constitutional values among citizens. Statement 2. On 26 November 1949, the Constituent Assembly of India set up a drafting committee under the chairmanship of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar to prepare a draft Constitution of India. Which of the following one of them is correct in respect of the above statements? Option A, both statements 1 and 2 are correct, and statement 2 is the correct explanation for statement 1. Option B, both statements 1 and 2 are correct, but statement 2 is not the correct explanation for statement 1. Option C, statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect. And option D, statement 1 is incorrect, but statement 2 is correct.
Okay, with respect to the second statement, the drafting committee was set up in 1947, 29th August. So the second statement is false. 26th November 1949, in fact, it was the Constitution when it was enacted. So the second statement is definitely false. Based on that itself, the question can be answered. The correct answer is C. And yes, the 26th November, it is celebrated as Samvidhan Divas. And one of the objectives is to promote the constitutional values among citizens.
Question 97. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. According to the Constitution of India, the central government has a duty to protect states from internal disturbances. Statement 2. The Constitution of India exempts the states from providing legal counsel to a person being held for preventive detention. Statement 3. According to the Prevention of Terrorism Act 2002, confession of the accused before the police cannot be used as evidence. How many of the above statements are correct? Option A, only 1. Option B, only 2. Option C, all 3. Option D, none.
Okay, so the first one, statement 1 is correct. Article 355 clearly states that it is the duty of the union to protect the states from internal disturbances. Statement 2, Article 22 of the Constitution, Fundamental Rights, it explains preventive detention. However, there is ideally a person has a right to legal counsel, but preventive detention is one of the cases where the state makes an exemption. And Article 22 subsection 3 clearly states that the right to be defended by a legal practitioner in case of arrest is not applicable in case of preventive laws. So statement 2 is also correct. And statement 3, however, Prevention of Terrorism Act quota has been repealed, but the statement given to in front of police was made admissible in Prevention of Terrorism Act. It is not admissible as part of Indian Evidence Act. In fact, the statement given to police personnel as part of the investigative process is not admissible in courts. So statement 3 is incorrect. Quota was an exception. In fact, to take one of the examples, recently NCB was striped off the right, where the same right had been given to the Narcotics Bureau in the Riya Chakravarti case, where the statement made in front of police personnel was not made admissible by the Supreme Court. So statement 3 is incorrect. The correct answer is B. only two statements, the statement 1 and statement 2, are correct.
Question 100. Consider the following statements in respect of election to the President of India. Statement 1. The members nominated to either House of the Parliament or the Legislative Assemblies of States are also eligible to be included in the Electoral College. Statement 2. Higher the number of elective assembly seats, higher is the value of vote of each MLA of that state. Statement 3. The value of vote of each MLA of Madhya Pradesh is greater than that of Kerala. Statement 4. The value of vote of each MLA of Puducherry is higher than that of Arunachal Pradesh because the ratio of total population to total number of elective seats in Puducherry is greater as compared to Arunachal Pradesh. How many of the above statements are correct? Option A, only 1. Option B, only 2. Option C, only 3. Option D, all 4.
Okay, so the first two statements are relatively simple, I would say. The first statement is incorrect because only elected members of the parliament or legislative assemblies are part of the electoral college, as mentioned in Article 54. It clearly says that nominated members are not to be a part of the electoral college. With respect to statement 2, the value of each vote of MLA is, the population of state divided by the number of legislative assembly seats in accordance with the principle of, proportional representation, both across the state and across the nation. So the relation between the value of the vote of an individual MLA is inversely proportional to the number of the legislative assembly seats. So the statement 2 is incorrect. With respect to statement 3, though the number of seats in MP is much higher than that of Kerala, so it seems plausible that the value of an individual vote of Kerala will be higher than that of Madhya Pradesh. So statement 3 is incorrect. And with respect to statement 4, now Pondicherry and Arunachal Pradesh both are relatively sparsely populated union territories. So assuming that they have a relatively comparable population, Pondicherry has much less number of seats as compared to Arunachal Pradesh. So the value of each vote, the value of vote of each MLA in Pondicherry should be higher than that of Arunachal Pradesh. So while the plausible explanation actually make for correct explanations for statement 3 and statement 4. Statement 3 is incorrect. Statement 4 is correct. The correct answer is A.
Question 53. Consider the following pairs. First column is regions often mentioned in news. Second column is reason for being in the news. First, North Kivu and Ituri, war between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Second, Nagorno-Karabakh, insurgency in Mozambique. Third, Kherson and Zaporizhia, dispute between Israel and Lebanon. How many of the above pairs are correctly matched? Option A, only 1. Option B, only 2. Option C, all 3. Option D, none.
First of all, North Kivu and Ituri, these places are in Democratic Republic of Congo. And the reason they are in news is because of the state of emergency imposed since April 22, because of the clashes between the jihadist forces, the Allied Democratic Forces. It is an armed group of Ugandan origin, and the Army of Democratic Republic of Congo. Particularly, it has been in news because there have been more than 2,500 civilian deaths, which have been reported from the region. So this one is incorrectly matched. The second is Nagorno-Karabakh. It is a disputed territory which is a part of Azerbaijan, and it has been in news because of the Nagorno-Karabakh war. It is a disputed area between Azerbaijan and Armenia. So actually, option 2 matches with what has been given as a match for option 1. The third one, Kherson and the other place, they have been in news because of the Russia-Ukraine war, which continues since September 2022. And 4 places were annexed, they were declared as annexation areas by Russia, and they were Donetsk, Kherson, Luhansk, and Zaporizhia. Two of them have been named here. So they are basically disputed between Russia and Ukraine. So none of the options are actually correctly matched, and the correct answer is D.
Question 54. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. Israel has established diplomatic relations with some Arab states. Statement 2. The Arab Peace Initiative mediated by Saudi Arabia was signed by Israel and Arab League. Which of the following is correct in respect of the above statements? Option A, both statements 1 and 2 are correct, and statement 2 is the correct explanation for statement 1. Option B, both statements 1 and 2 are correct, and statement 2 is not the correct explanation for statement 1. Option C, statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect. And option D, statement 1 is incorrect, but statement 2 is correct.
Okay, so Israel has diplomatic relations with Egypt and Jordan. Both of them are Arab states. So statement 1 is correct. Statement 2 seems false anyway, because there is no peace right now in that Arab area. Israel is still in dispute with Palestine. And so this should be it should be a reasonably easy guess that it has not been signed by Israel. Otherwise, the issue would have been resolved. So the initiative is a brainchild of Saudi Arabia, but it was never signed by Israel. And since statement 2 is incorrect, the correct answer is C.
Question 57. Consider the following pairs. Column A, we have area of conflict mentioned in news, and in column B, we have the country where it is located. So statement 1, Donbas, Syria. 2, Kachin, Ethiopia. 3, Tigray, North Yemen. How many of the above pairs are correctly matched? Option A, only 1. Option B, only 2. Option C, all 3. Option D, none.
Okay, so none of the options are correctly matched. The correct answer is D. To explain, Donbas is in Ukraine, and again, it has been in news due to the Ukrainian war with Russia. Kachin is in Myanmar. It is close to China, and the Kachin Independence Organization. It is an ethnic rebel group of Myanmar, which is relatively strong. And since 2021, Myanmar has been under army rule, and this pro-democratic militia forces they have been suppressed quite strongly by the army, and because of the recent conflict, they were in news. The third one is Tigray. Tigray is in Ethiopia. Again, it is in news due to an armed conflict between the Ethiopian government and the local militia, which is Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. So Donbas matches with Ukraine, Kachin goes with Myanmar, and Tigray goes with Ethiopia. So none of them are correctly matched. The correct answer is D.
Question 58. In the recent years, Chad, Guinea, Mali, and Sudan caught the international attention for which one of the following reasons common to all of them? Option A, discovery of rich deposits of rare earth elements. Option B, establishment of Chinese military bases. Option C, southward expansion of Sahara Desert. Option D, successful coups.
Okay, the options were really interesting when I saw the question. The first one can definitely be ruled out. That was, it seemed unlikely. But the other were relatively close options if one does not know the exact explanation. But the exact explanation is the phenomenon of coup, which is happening in many many African nations. In fact, the U.S. Council for Foreign Relations recently mentioned that coups are back in West Africa, and even the Wall Street Journal recently said that coups in Africa are at their highest level since the end of colonialism. All these 4 countries were a victim of military coup in 2021. So the correct answer is D.
Question 60. Consider the following statements about G20. Statement 1. The G20 group was originally established as a platform for the finance ministers and central bank governors to discuss the international economic and financial issues. Statement 2. Digital public infrastructure is one of India's G20 priorities. Which of the following statements given above is or are correct? Option A, 1 only. Option B, 2 only. Option C, both 1 and 2. Option D, neither 1 nor 2.
Okay, both the statements are correct. The G20 was founded in 1999 after the financial crisis in Asia, and it was a forum for the finance ministers and the central bank governors to discuss the global economic and financial issues. So, statement one is correct. Statement two also is correct. Recently, India is holding the chair for G20. The presidency. Statement digital public infrastructure is has been one of the key priorities of the Indian government as of now. So, statement one and two both are correct, and the correct answer is C.
Question number 70. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. Recently, all the countries of the United Nations have adopted the first ever compact for international migration, the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration, GCM. Statement 2. The objectives and commitments stated in the GCM are binding on the UN member countries. Statement 3. The GCM addresses internal migration or internally displaced people also in its objectives and commitments. How many of the above statements are correct? Option A, only 1. Option B, only 2. Option C, all 3. Option D, none.
Okay, so I'd like to explain this. The options in this question by taking an educated guess once again. The first statement, it says that all the countries of United Nations have adopted the first ever compact for international migration, ... Now, the thing is that it's very difficult to have a consensus over any issue among all the countries of the United Nations. So the statement, it seems false at its very conception. And it is also true, not all the countries have adopted it. It's quite... migration has been quite a big issue in Europe, especially because of the war in the Arab states. Even if you see, Hungary has been a vocal, it has vocally opposed the migration it is suffering from. So US is opposed to it. So the statement one is clearly incorrect. The second thing, there are hardly any commitments to the United Nations which are binding upon upon its member countries. So again, I find statement 2 incorrect, and it is factually incorrect. The third statement, when you talk about migration, I don't think any country has to discuss internal migration with United Nations. It has to be international migration. So if statement 3 is read carefully, it clearly appears that it is false. And all the statements are incorrect. The correct answer is D.
Question number 98. Which one of the following countries has been suffering from decades of civil strife and food shortages and was in the news in the recent past for its very severe famine? Option A, Angola. Option B, Costa Rica. Option C, Ecuador. Option D, Somalia.
Okay, so all of these countries are relatively poor with low standards of living, I would say. Costa Rica and Ecuador are both Central and South American countries, respectively. The main region which has been in news due to harsh conditions of climate change, especially due to food crisis, is the Horn of Africa, and Somalia is one of the nations. So the correct answer should be option D, Somalia.
So thank you very much for the excellent explanation and for being here with us today, sir. I trust that all our viewers comprehended the information as well. Thank you.
Thank you.